hablas inglés? Can you understand what I'm saying? And if you can you answer me? Si has estudiado inglés antes, pero todavía no lo puedes hablar. how do you take your coffee? For most Americans, it's with cream and sugar. But if you knew how damaging some of these most popular coffee add-ins, like flavored syrups, milk, artificial creamers, and artificial sweeteners, can be to your gut and your health, you'd probably want to start taking your coffee black. But before you do, I want to tell you about something you can add to your coffee instead, or even a smoothie or a glass of water that's not just a healthier choice, but that can actually boost your digestive system, turbocharge your energy levels, and even help you lose weight. I'm Dr. Vincent Pedre, one of New York City's leading physicians and a gut health expert. I secretly suffered with abdominal pain, cramping, bloating, and fatigue for years. I also constantly struggled to maintain a healthy weight. I tried everything from changing my diet to acupuncture to a plethora of pharmaceuticals, and while something has brought relief, it was never lasting. Sound familiar? Well, even with all of my medical trainings, I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was so embarrassed, and I didn't want anyone to know. How could I help my patients if I couldn't even help myself? But everything changed when I determined the root cause of all of my problems. Since then, I've uncovered groundbreaking research that is now allowing me to eat many of my favorite foods without fear of indigestion, low energy, or frustrating weight issues. Want to know exactly what I did that finally worked? Well, if you drink coffee every morning, then you'll be happy to hear that I have found a way to supercharge your cup of joe by adding a tasty treat that works like a delicious creamer, but without any of the negative side effects, to improve your digestion, boost your energy, and help you better manage your weight by supporting your gut health. And if you're like me and don't drink coffee, don't worry. This is something you can add to any drink, from chai tea to just plain water. I personally like to put it in my morning smoothie or even oatmeal. But first, I need to explain how adding things like sugar and cream to your coffee can be so detrimental to your health. See, there are many foods in the standard American diet, like sugar, that can disrupt your gut microbiome, and this may even lead to breaking up your gut's lining, creating spaces big enough to allow destructive substances like bacteria, yeast, partially digested food particles, and other toxins to actually escape from your gut.
That was always over. You couldn't see the hills.
Hey, brother.
Good to see you. It's been a long time. You know this guy?
No, I think we met once before. Fabian.
Only once? Oh, okay.
Or a couple.
Yeah, he's
I don't think I might have one. At church. Yeah. Beautiful.
Do you know who that masked man is? His name is I didn't want to interrupt you. I know you will do That's how, you know what? Yeah, I feel like this.
I
Oh, I thought it was
Okay, family, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I have all my toddlers here that are present. If you don't mind coming forward, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a blood.
Did it turn on, or did I just push it once or twice?
Just one. This should be more in July.
Okay.
So you find out when you speak.
Okay, pallbearers, if I could please get 4 and 4 on each of my side, please. And then whoever can carry the most weight, if you could please come closest to the coach. Whoever can carry the least weight, please go to the back. If I could do 4 on one side and 4 on the other. The very first one to see it, please grab it with your hand. Now when it goes, do it side by side slide. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make a left hook, right over here, and a split. Just be careful with this. Everybody gets it. If you feel you do have a good grip on both hands, please push it up. Thank you so much. Grab close, grab that hand. Don't make any make that turn that I was telling you. Thank you so much. Anthony, come forward. Forward, thank you so much. Please be careful with your step. A little bit over here to our right, please. We do have flowers. Please come forward. Can we get over there on that side, please, gentlemen? Thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you so much. If you would like to keep the pallbearers up, you can, or if you'd like to place it on the bench card, you know. Thank you so much for placing it on there. Okay, families, we are going to begin momentarily. If you would like to come a little forward, please. apologize for that. Would you like to come over here on this side right here? Thank you so much.
I know the family had some friends and family that wanted to share some words, and we're going to give them an opportunity at this point to come. And if you could please speak into the microphone so it could be heard not only by you but those that are watching through live stream. So if you could please make your way, if you're one of those that will share some words.
Good morning. I'm Omar's Uncle Pete. And on my family's behalf, I would like to thank everybody for coming. And my father couldn't be here with us today, so I definitely want to extend his hugs, loves, and prayer. You know, when I was 14 years old, you know, Omar was born. And growing up, you know, the youngest of 8 siblings, but older than all my nephews and nieces, you know, it was a true joy. You know, all of our birthday parties that we would almost have one every other weekend. I think we were the only family that at the end of the party would fight about, no, you have to take the cake. We don't want to eat no more cake. You take it. No, you take it. We had cake every other weekend. You know, Omar not only was, you know, a great nephew, he was my little brother. He was also, you know, a true friend. He never really took sides. He always wanted everybody to feel loved, and he wanted everybody to feel equally important. I think that's the same reason why he was never a true hard sports fan, you know, because I think that he always wanted to cheer for your team too. He was probably one of the only nephews, right? We all had of our diehard team, but he would just want you to be happy on that day. He was always special that way. You know, some of you guys weren't here for yesterday, but I wanted to share one of the stories. It's a story that lived with us through every camping trip, birthday party, every family get together, all of the holidays. Robert, Omar's dad, was outside watering the grass, and I'm quoting Omi, right? But he realizes that the family van has gone missing, so he throws the water hose across the yard and runs in full sprint, barges into their house. He turns the corner and he's running like Usain Bolt down the hallway to Omar's room, and he kicks it with 2 flying kicks open. He says, Omar, hurry, somebody stole our van. They took everything, Omar. They took everything, I tell you. It's all gone. Everything we've ever had. We'll never be able to recover from this. The story would always end with Omi saving the day. He would stare puzzled and say, Dad, don't you remember? You took the van for service. Robert would say, oh yeah, I forgot. Every event, I would ask him to tell me that story. And every event, Omar would never disappoint. Robert would obviously squirm because he knew it was coming. But Omar, with a big smile over his face, with great enthusiasm, he'd start the story as if it was the first time he ever told it. You know, we all heard that story about 30 times, and it never got old. You know, another memory was right after his accident. He was recovering from a broken arm. And, you know, I stopped by to, you know, visit, you know, my nephew. And he and Robert were going back and forth a little bit. And, you know, he says, Robert, tell your uncle. Tell your uncle, ask him. And Omar turns around and looks at me. He says, Theo, what would you do if you had a broken arm and you were in pain? And then I look at him and I say, I would remember that God made me a man, and I would buck up. So he says, yeah, that's a good one, Theo, you're right. I am a man. And he's going to obviously buck up. My Omi, he was a great nephew. He loved his whole family. He loved us all. You know, he was a protector, a great cousin, a guardian. You know, he was somebody that was always on our side. You know, and you know, I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. You know, he was one of the greatest ones of us. And I know he's gone too soon for us, but his memory will obviously last forever. I love you, Omi. We all love you. And till we meet again.
Hi. So Omar's my younger cousin, and I grew up with him, and we had a lot of funny stories, and all of you know how great of a person he was, and just to make you feel better, make you feel good. And so I just want to share a couple of stories that like I'll always remember, and it just cracked me up. So like when we were younger, he started coming over my house so we could start working out, and I was gonna help him gain weight, and he was gonna help me lose weight. But by the end of summer, I gained 10 pounds, and he was the same weight. And another thing, I brought him over because my younger brothers were starting to outlift me, and I go, well, Omar's the strongest person I know. He's gonna outlift them. So he comes over, and he could barely outlift me, and he's struggling, and he tells me, "You just brought me over to set me up? Like, how am I gonna recover from this? Abel's outlifting me, and he has a crooked back." And like one of the last stories I remember, and I'll always remember, is my son is a couple months old, and Omar's holding him. It's making him laugh, and I was like getting a little jealous. And I told him, well, he's just fake laughing with you. He's not really laughing. And he looks at me dead serious, and he goes, "What are you talking about? Joseph stopped breathing about a minute ago. Look, he's turning blue, he's laughing so hard." Just little things like that, he'd make you laugh, and we just always had a good time with Omar. Just gonna always remember that. I'm gonna pass these stories on to all of us, all our family, our cousins, everybody. But I'm gonna miss him. It's just, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start the same way I did yesterday, with the quote from Frank Sinatra, where he says, "And so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than that. I did it my way." And when I think of Omi, I think of a guy who was unapologetically himself. I had the privilege to be in every class that he was and experience a lot of the same things that he did. For whatever reason, he was always the one to get caught and get in trouble, and I was the one who had the story. I remember we would always wrestle. I guess that's what boys do. And I would pin him and get him into a chokehold, and he would say, "You know, I'm not gonna tap. You're gonna have to put me out or not." And I never could quite put him out. And so I would let him go, and then he would somehow spin it on me and end up choking me out. And then I would tap out, of course. You know, the memories I have, I'll carry with me forever. I love him, and he loved me. Thanks.
So, as many of you know, Omar was Omar, and he wasn't going to change. Whenever you saw him, he had that big smile that would always light up the room. That laugh that we can never forget. No matter the circumstance, whenever you saw Omar, you also smiled with him. And that's what I'm gonna miss most about him. I remember over the summer, him and little Robert would come over to the house. We would play like a bun baseball. Scores would get tight, and then me and Omar would just start cracking them into the neighbor's yard. And we would just laugh so hard until we ran out of baseballs, and we would just have to go buy some more. Another one of my favorite stories with Omar was a perfect example of me, Paul, and him growing up together. Was me and Paul would get into our little scruffles and whatnot. Omar would just sit back and watch and either laugh or wait till we finished. We were in the back, me and Paul were wrestling. I got him in an armbar and Paul screeched. Omar heard my mom yell from the window, and he booked it towards the house because he didn't want to get in trouble with us. Omar was always there to watch over us. But we're all gonna miss and love him forever.
My name is Abel. I'm Omar's younger cousin. I shared a few stories yesterday, about how great of a guy Omar was. But as soon as I finished, I realized, there's so many emotions going through, so much more you want to say. And just hearing about Joe and Omar and my crooked back, it reminded me of Omar actually was the one who taught me how to do a few lifts that I would just mess up all the time. I would use my back too much, and he would say, "You're gonna mess up your back, Abel." Obviously, I didn't listen. And just a story that Sabrina actually told me, just to know how good of a guy Omar was I guess he was dropping her off at kindergarten. And Sabrina, being a little bit like Sabrina, she dropped her drink on herself. And Omar, without an instance, just started helping her clean it up as quickly as he could, and even started licking the Starbucks off of her shirt. Just because in that small moment, even though it seemed like Sabrina's world kind of came crumbling down, he made her feel better. And he was the type of guy to do that for anybody. And I think that's what I'm going to remember the most about Omar. Is that he loved us. And I'm glad that, the last time I saw him, I was able to hug him, say goodbye, and say I love you. 'Cause you really don't know. And I think I'm just thankful for the memories I shared with him, the debates, the fights, but mostly the love. I love you very much, Omar, and thank you for everything.
So when I was 6 years old, obviously I was in the first grade, and my mom, she used to drop me off to school, and I would always cry because I didn't want to leave her, and nothing was wrong at school. I just would rather be with my mom, and I would give her a hard time every day. I would always end up being late because I was always just trying to stay with my mom. And so my mom finally got sick of it, and she said, "Omi, you gotta take him." So in the morning she would drop me off at my Tia Aggie's house, and she would have Omar take me to school. And the first day, everything was going good, and then when we got to the door, I was like, "Omi, don't leave me here." And he's like, "Jerry, you gotta go." we went back and forth for like 10 minutes, and he's trying to like get me closer and closer to the door. He's like, all right, Bear, like I'll see you after school. We'll be all right. And I remember I grabbed onto his leg and I was like, Omi, just don't go. And he knew I wasn't going to leave, so he made a deal with me. He said, Bear, here's my hat. Take the hat with you, and I'll come visit you on your first recess. So I took the hat and I went into class and I took it with me. And I was expecting him to just come after school, and first recess came around, I took the hat with me. I was sitting on the bench and Omar came to pick it up, gave me a hug. Like what Abel said, he always did what he could to make us all feel better. Me and him would always talk, even up until recently. Every time a new Yeezy was coming out, he would always send it to me. We would always talk about that. And in one of our recent conversations, we were just talking about the new shoes coming out, and I think he had to go to work or something, and he said, I love you, Bear. I said, I love you too, bro. He said, always. And Omi loved us all. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Glenn, and Omar worked with me and my office staff in our orthopedic surgery practice. And I want to share a story. 3 years ago, I went to India, and I went to the Ganges, which is the most holy place for Indians, and it's where everybody comes to rest on their passing. And they had public cremations, and it was an amazing place to be part of. One morning we went up on the river and watched as the cremation started, and I saw big flocks of gulls fly in, and there were hundreds, if not thousands, of Indian people on boats feeding the gulls at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I asked our guide, I said, what are these people doing? Why are they all feeding the gulls? And he said, the gulls come down from Siberia 3 months a year to be on this river, and it's considered good karma if you feed the gulls. And it's a way of advancing yourself in that culture. And people showed up so that when it was their turn, they knew they had good karma, and it was the right thing to do. How does that tie in with Omar? So for every good deed that someone does, they get karma points. And Omar was all good deeds, no bad deeds in our office. You could always count on Omar to be happy, to be smiling. He would walk down the hall, walk past a room, catch someone's eye, walk backwards. Hi, Mrs. Smith, how's your elbow? He knew my patients' names better than I did. He knew what everybody's problems were, and he was always happy to see them, and patients were always thrilled. And if he wasn't there, where's Omar? And now with our office having a big hole without Omar there, patients who've only met him once, where's Omar? Because even with one meeting, he had such a powerful impact on people because his energy was so good. And Omar was such a good guy. We never wrestled in the office like the rest of you guys, but he did. One story I'll tell you, and I don't know if he ever shared this with all of you, but Omar would sit there and eat and eat and eat, and the rest of us, close to 50 years old, would say, Omar, stop eating. You're going to be a really big guy one day, and you're not going to like it. Just hold off. And he said, Dr. Cohen, I want to walk down the hall, and when I bump into a wall, the wall's going to be dented. And that's how it's going to be. And I'm going to be a powerhouse, and that's how it's going to be. So we had great times with Omar, but again, I've never met anybody with more positive energy and goodwill for everybody. And it was only natural that he found his way to healthcare, because what better place to help people 8 hours a day than in that office, hands-on. And Omar was so well suited for it. And I'm so sorry for your loss. way too soon. But you know, if anybody has a spot waiting for them in heaven, I'm sure it's Omar, because he got his points and his time on earth was well spent, and he'll be remembered by everybody who meets him, even if it was only once. Love you guys.
Hi, my name's Paul. I was a friend of Omar's. We went to high school together, and we worked together after high school. You know, I really struggled with what to say today for days now. Been putting stuff down on paper and just nothing feels right. But, you know, yesterday I came to grips with it's never going to feel enough to say about Omar. I'm just going to talk about some memories that we had together. You know, luckily his cousin Paul was in baseball, so when he was in there, me and Omar would take his car and we taught ourselves how to drive stick shift. That's one of the best memories that we had. Sorry about the transmission, Paul. You know, luckily for myself and a few other guys back in high school, we were lucky enough to call Omar a friend. He would have us over his house almost every day during sixth period. It was a free period, so we were allowed to leave, and you know, we would go have Call of Duty tournaments at his house. We'd go grab a box of Little Caesars pizza. You know, I regret to say that over the last couple years, I haven't really seen much of Omar, and you know, I didn't know if I was worthy to come up here and speak on behalf of him. But that's, you know, my own regrets, because I know Omar would just be like, say 2 words and that's all I need. Like, Omar didn't need much. I was lucky enough a couple years ago, I saw him at homecoming, and Omar used to always talk about, like, he just wanted to be fat. He would drink weight gainers all day, and when I saw him at homecoming, he's like, Deuce, you did it. How did you get so fat? Like, just tell me. So, I mean, I could tell you guys a million stories, but I know you all loved Omar, so you know basically the type of person Omar was. You know, at least with me, Omar wasn't very emotional, but there's an emotion he never, ever had a problem showing, and that was happiness and joy. As Jonathan said, he would laugh constantly, and he always had that classic Omar smile. And, you know, I'm grateful that everyone allowed me to be here today, because, like I said, even though we haven't seen each other in a while, yesterday hearing everyone speak, it felt like I had the chance to catch up with Omar. And today I have the chance to say bye to Omar and be with him in the end. And for that, I'm going to be forever grateful. So thank you all for allowing me to speak today.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'd be remiss not to start off by sharing something that I always shared with Omar, and that's that God created every single one of us, for a relationship, and he loves us, and that's what he wanted. And our sin is something that separated us from him, and the result of that was death. But God loved us so much that he sent his son so that we didn't have to stay separate, and he paid the price that we didn't have to pay, that we couldn't pay. And anyone that accepted Jesus, put their faith and trust in him, they would spend eternity with him. And like I said, I'd feel terrible if I didn't share that with you. My brother Omi, I will always keep the love up. Who could have known the bond that we would build would become what it is? I will forever cherish our brotherhood and the love that we shared. You and I spent a lot of time together. We saw each other almost every single day. We'd meet up after work and hang out for hours. It even got to the point where we'd meet up before work for even just 10 to 30 minutes. We laughed in the face of time. And what I mean by that is, most adults our parents would say that we were irresponsible with time, and we were. We often risked being late to work, home, appointments, dates with Megan. We cruised through life at a similar speed, which was usually slow and occasionally fast. We challenged the limits of time. We knew that a restaurant would be closing in 15 minutes and was on the complete other side of the valley. Most people wouldn't even attempt it, but not for us. We made it work, even if it took us going 100 miles per hour on the freeway. And sometimes somehow we always got where we were trying to go just in the nick of time. Understanding who Omi is, you really couldn't. He wasn't handing that type of closeness out. So it meant something to me that we had that. I remember the first and only time Omi broke down as he shared some of his greatest hurts. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say because this was not, our usual conversation. It wasn't who normal Omi was, but we trusted each other. Omi is different. To this day, never met another human being quite like him. Marched to the beat of his own drum. I idolized Omi and looked up to him. Everything about him and everything he did I thought was the coolest thing. From growing out his hair, his Jedi braid, the different mustaches of Omi, his nonchalant attitude, the fact that his most used vocabulary was basically his own original dope ad-libs, his library of music, and how we listened to all of it. The way he texted with no capital letters, and to this day, I still text the same way because of him. Really just his entire person. The best way to describe him is just Omi's just dope. That's who he is. Sometimes intentionally and a lot of times subconsciously, I emulate him. For the last 10 years and to this day, my wife says to me all the time, "All right, Omar." He is just so ingratiated into the fabric of who I am and the dynamic of my family. There's a piece of Omi alive in every single one of us. Omi made it clear from the jump that it was me and him, ride or die, no matter what. We were always on the same side, on the same team. He's my boy. It didn't matter who we were around. We were just a duo. We were crazy. And I can still hear him saying, after all this time, after I would say something completely rational and probably necessary, in Omi voice, "D, you're crazy." His eyes would light up, he'd smile ear to ear, and he would let out that bellowing laugh, and we would just start cracking up. I'll miss that so much. We could be pretty youthfully ignorant. We could sit in the car and listen to music and talk back and forth for hours. Omi was complex. He's not a person that you could easily define. As high as our highs were, Omi would also sometimes get very low. And sometimes he'd talk about it and sometimes he wouldn't. But I always tried to show him that I was there, and he knew that. Sometimes it didn't matter though. He'd still isolate himself, and he'd ghost me for a while, sometimes short periods and sometimes long. And I have to say, I'm not a person who chases people, not even my wife. But because me and Omi's bond was different, I truly believe that God put the love that I have for Omi there in my heart. I had determined that I was going to love my brother no matter what. And I mean no matter what, which is scary because Omi's a wild card. So sometimes I was afraid of what he might do next. So I chased him, let him know I was there, give him his space to recover however he needed. But I text him, trying to encourage him, build him up, let him know that we're brothers. And ultimately, whatever he was going through, it wasn't just his burden, but mine also. And I think that each time he came out of it, our bond would grow stronger. We never attacked each other, and that doesn't mean we didn't tell each other hard truths. We did, but we never broke the other person down, which I think is rare in very close relationships. He would always tell me, "D, I don't care to explain. Nobody gets it but you and me." Or, "D, you and me are the only two people who get it." Those words meant a lot to me, and not because they're necessarily true, but because he believed them. In 2015, I was going to propose to my wife, Megan. Unknowingly, marriage and children would change the amount of time we were able to spend with each other. During that same time, Omi had shared with me that he was starting his imaging program. I was happy for him. Several weeks later, he told me about Alex. Knowing Omi, I didn't think too much about it, but right away, once they started hanging out, the way he spoke about her was different than the way I had ever heard him speak about any woman of interest. Fast forward some months, Omi got into an accident that could have easily taken his life, but God preserved his life. I visited him in the hospital, and that's where I met Alex. Omi just loved Alex different than any other woman. The way he was around her and the way he spoke about her, I knew that he truly loved her. And for the next 5 years, I didn't see Omi the same amount that we had, but our relationship never changed. We had a life bond. Every time I was with him, or with him and Alex, or with them and his family, I always was overjoyed to see his love for Alex. I was always overjoyed to see his love for Alex and his family grow. I know that you made him a better man and you loved him. And I just want to say thank you to Alex, Aggie, Big Rob, Little Rob, and to all his family, all his friends, everyone here. Because loving Omi comes at a cost. Loving Omi comes at a cost. And sometimes the cost seems great. But everyone that loved him would choose it without question every single time. Omi's that special. Now I could literally tell you 1,000 different stories or things about Omi, like when he got us kicked out of Hurricane Harbor for going down the slide backwards after they told him not to. How he was horrible at directions but thought he was great. How he drove us through so many red light intersections without batting an eye. Our gym workouts, the months he spent drinking pure creamer and ensure to gain weight, and our ridiculous plans to become famous with no effort. Omar was so generous. You know, there was one winter night where we're hanging out and it's freezing cold, and Omi's just chilling in his jacket, and he hears my teeth start chattering, and he says to me, "D, take my jacket." When the night was over and I went to hand him back his jacket, he said, "You like it? Keep it. It's this jacket." To this day, it's my favorite jacket. Since Omi passed, I've been going through all of our old text messages, old and new, and I just wanted to read a few that illustrate his spirit. He says, "Only thoughts, D. Love your hair. You have such a cool, smart daughter. Love you and your family, D. Thought it and just wanted to tell you." Another one. "Love you, hardcore D. Love you the most, brother. Love you the most, for sure. Let's meet up soon. Double date. Let me know." Wowzer, D. I'm too jealous and excited. Happy for you, my brother. Wow, Daniel, your daughter is way too set having you as her dad. Love you, brother. Love that you had that thought. I love knowing you. Bruh, I'm missing you. Sorry I've been so MIA. You know what? You know we'll always be brothers. You're my big bro. Been cool, D, though. Thanks for keeping your love up. How's life with you? Love you, Omi.
Hello? Can you hear me? There, thank you. I am Omar's wannabe grandma. I had Omar and little Ro with my 3 boys in my car for many years, picking them up from school, taking care of them. And so there as much part of me as my 3 boys, little Ro and Omar. He was taken too soon, and I'm so sorry for that, but he will live in my memories and some of the troubles that he and Paul used to get into. I had to go after them, but they're such good kids. I love taking care of them and watching them grow. I will miss Omi forever, and I'm sorry for your loss, Aggie. Robert, for all of us, I am so sorry.
I told myself I'd try to be strong. You have no clue how big of a loss this is for us. I had this whole thing printed out, and my wife's like, "You can't. It's too long. Just too much time you're gonna take." First, I said some of this yesterday, but I first want to tell everybody thank you. He would be so amazed to see everybody here for him. You guys have been such a big support for me, for Aggie, for his brother, and I really appreciate it. You've been at our house every day, and Aggie's loved it. She's been solid, and it's thanks to you guys. Me, on the other hand, I miss him so much. He was an amazing son, an amazing brother. He admired Robert for everything he was doing. He just was like, he was so amazing. His cousins, his uncles, they all loved him. One of the things was, what Pete said was about the story about the van. But Pete left out the most important part of it, the actual truth of it. Okay, I didn't go karate kick his door down. I didn't yell. I basically walked. I did forget. So that is the truth. But I just went to his room. I says, "Hey, my van's gone. Where's my van?" And then he's like, "Dad, you're getting Alzheimer's." He goes, "You took it to the shop." But for every family event, every birthday, every holiday, every camping trip, that story got exaggerated so big. You know, first it's like I bursted into his room, then it was like I kicked his door, and then it was a karate kick, and so it just blew up. One of the great things I liked is when he would come home, out of the blue, he would want to debate a topic, whether it was politics. Now with the COVID, he would say, "Dad, can you believe that? Can you believe that what is going on?" And I would give my thoughts about it. And automatically, Dad doesn't know anything. "Dad, you're crazy." He would always tell Aggie that I'm crazy. He's like, "Mom, Dad's crazy." But Robert, he can give a logical explanation, whether it was right or wrong. And Omar was like, "Good point, Ro." And I'm like, "Wait, why is it a good point for him and it was bad for me?" There's so many stories. There's one story that I hope Robert will tell you, and it was with them too. There was a story where we went camping, and Aggie had to work that day, Omar had to work that day, so they were going to meet up with us, and they got lost. It was in the middle of the night, pitch dark. They're going back and forth, turning around, U-turns, going everywhere, and they just couldn't find us. And then later we find out that on the down low, Aggie was trying to dial 911 like 20 times, and she couldn't get through because there was no signal. And then Omar's like, "No, don't do that." Then finally they got a hold of us, and she says, she tells me, "You better come and find us. We're not moving from here. I don't care what you have to do, you're gonna come and find us." So me and Pete got in his truck. At that time, the whole campground was closed, so we had to basically 4x around the gate and go look for them, and we finally found them. That was one of the stories. One of the other stories I had heard just recently was from Alex and his friend, and this is Omar. He would do it. They went to, I think it was a concert, and they were in the parking lot, and you know how there's parking attendants to tell you to go, not to go, and stop. Well, they were way in the back of the line, and they said that Omar found those orange things to direct traffic, and then also an orange vest. I guess the guy took a break or something, so he put it on, and he went out there and he's directing traffic, and he's getting them to go ahead of everybody. So they went all ahead of everybody, and then they said that he was still directing traffic even though after they left. So they're like, "Hey, Omar, come on, we gotta go." So I guess he had to run after them. And then there's times where he would call me during the day, and anytime I seen his number calling me, I knew he did something wrong. He would tell me, Dad, don't get mad. And then he would tell me the whole thing. And then he would say, but Dad, don't tell Mom. Because he was scared to tell Mom, But no, I told her because I was scared too. There's no way. I couldn't hold it from her. So he would get yelled at, scolded, and so forth. But this kid, he loved everybody. He had no ill feelings towards anybody. Everybody loved him, and he was always there, and he would give the shirt off his back. And the kids, when they were around, he didn't care if they broke something of his or dropped something. And then I would be like, oh, be careful. And he would say, Dad, just leave them alone. They're just kids. Just let them play. But he had such a big heart. And my last text from him was, if he needs anything, I'm there, and that I love him. And he texts me back saying, I love you too, Dad. And I look at that every day, and I miss him so much. And he will forever be remembered by everybody, and everybody will always have love for him. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for what you guys have done for my family. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Fabi. I'm that crazy Tia that, everybody knows. But Omar, no matter how crazy I am, he always saw me for the good, no matter what. And when I would come and visit, of course we would have to warn Robert and the boys, that Tia Fabi's coming, And Aggie, she would, most of the time, mess with them. Like, oh, how long is she gonna be here? A day or... And they would be like, nah, she's staying for a couple of weeks, So they would be like, what's going on? And another, so when I would get there, I would knock on the door, and he would open it and just look over me, And he's like, Mom, there's no one here. And then he would be like 2 chops to the throat, We would always mess like that. And another, Omar was and is one of the best kids that we have in our family. My nephews, all of them, boys and girls, we've been lucky that they have such beautiful souls. Everyone does. And Omar has such kinder spirit, the loving, the compassion, his tenderness for everybody, all his family is just one of a kind. As in individuals, everybody displays such great love for one another. At times we might not see one another as much as we would want, but just the love that we have for everyone in our family, it doesn't matter. We could be years not seeing you, but the moment we see you, we still love you. We love each other. And another small little memory that I have of Omar was on Halloween. He comes dressed as a skeleton. And one of his things that he had stapled on the bones, his collarbone was off. So, would be like, hey, he's like, it's okay. So we were talking and gathering right there at my mom's house, and he was telling us a story about Robert. If everybody knows Rob, he sells, or he's to sell, like pottery or pots, pans, So at one time he had a big old van full of stuff, And I believe he forgot where he parked it, where he took the stuff out. But Omar saying that, you know, a robber comes running down the hallway and just kicks open the door and telling Omar, oh my God, we just been robbed. We're robbed. And Omar's just like freaking out. No, Dad, you forgot. You know, you put the stuff out of the van. But I just want to say that, you know, me, John, you know, my son, Deja, Jessica, and baby John, you know, we will forever, ever, you know, miss him and love him, and we will never, ever forget Omar, because he was that one of a kind, different, you know, in every aspect. And I admire my sister so much for the strength that she continues to have, you know, and I love you guys so much, you know. And where's John? Oh, you want to come say something? So he gets shy or embarrassed, but, you know, Aggie, we're here. But, you know, Omar's going to be forever engraved, you know, in our hearts and souls. And I always had the pleasure as well as meeting Michelle and her daughter. And, you know, I know Omar was happy, you know, that he has ever been. And I had the pleasure to hang out with them, with both Michelle and her daughter. And they were kind, loving, giving, and they were just so full of love and compassion. And when I saw that, and when I was able to go and hang out with them at their house, I saw why Omar loved her and why Omar was with her and with them. And it was nice, you know, to have such a union of peacefulness. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, you know, for knowing and loving Omar, because God made him and broke the mold when it was done for him. So thank you guys.
So I spoke yesterday, and I had my son with me climbing the freaking podium, so it was really hard to kind of get my train, kind of just words out. But I do kind of want to share some stories, because like my dad mentioned, a lot of you guys were not able to make it yesterday. Omar, one of the things that we always fought about and disagreed on was who our Nina was, because we shared the same Nina. And he always said, she's my Nina, Lena, she's not your Nina. And she's my Nina first. And he would always have to tell her, Nina, tell her. And then I'm like just standing there almost on the verge of crying. And she's like, Alina, he's my only godson. And I never took that from him. And I told him, I don't want to be her godson. I want to be her goddaughter. And he's like, whatever. She still loves me more. And like everyone, you know, knows, he was just so dope. Like, he was a cool person. He had a big heart. You know, a lot of the things from his style, every time I'd see him, he had like a hole in his shirt, his shoes, his pants. And I'm like, dude, why do you always have a hole in it? He goes, dude, you don't get it. And like, he'd get so frustrated. And I'm like, no, it's cool. Like, and I honestly low-key started wearing holes in my stuff too. And a lot of his, like, I'm wearing freaking Vans with slacks today because of him, because that's something he would do. He never liked to wear dress shoes. He always wanted to just be comfortable and be happy. And one of the stories I kind of want to bring up, it was Robert's graduation, and we all went to BJ's. And I remember, I don't think it was open bar. I think someone paid for the shots, but I don't remember. And Omar's like, we're gonna take one shot. And I'm like, yeah, all right. And I had not ate yet. And he's freaking tall. And I'm thinking, okay, he's skinny, so it's kind of like we're gonna match together, you know? And he turns around and he has like a double shot. And I'm like, oh, like we're doing double shots. And he's like, nah, you could do like a single shot, I'll do the double, this is my normal. And I was like, okay. And so he did a couple double shots, and he did a speech, and he was so proud of Robert. And he always used to say, my brother is a freaking genius. Like, this kid can build anything from nothing. Robert's so smart, and Omar admired him for that. One of the things that I adored about Omar was a lot of people who do know Noah, my younger son. He has autism and he doesn't speak. And he's very antisocial. He's getting better, but he's antisocial. He will not go to anybody. And every time he saw Omar, he would run to him. And it was just so crazy to me. I still this day, I still think it's weird that he gravitates to him all the time. And he would, the last time that we were at their house, you know, Dominic and Noah loved to play with Moose, and they loved to just run around with the dog and Omar. And Omar just like loved to be around the kids, and he always had a smile. He always had his laugh, and every time he'd see me, he'd always say like, "What are you, 30 years old now?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're older than me. I'm only 25." He's like, "What the heck? When did you get so old?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're so much older than me." And I know that Omar had a big heart, and I know that before he left, his heart was so big that he was able to give a piece of it to everybody in this place right now. Like, everybody has a piece of Omar's heart that's here today. Thank you.
Those were some great stories. And I think Robert's right. I think everybody tells that story. And it does get bigger every time. I imagined you kicking that door open with both feet. That's pretty impressive. There's no doubt that just hearing the stories that Omar was a happy person. The picture in the bulletin, I think, seems to portray him very well. A big smile. I didn't know Omar very well. I met him when he was in high school. That was a long time ago. And God is so good that He blessed us with a memory, the ability to remember. And although Omar is not present any longer, it's great to hear these stories. You'll never forget, and you'll carry with you. And the amazing thing about memory is that it gets stimulated different ways. There might be a song you might hear that remind you about him. You might go to a place that will remind you about him. A smell, a jacket, words, people. Seems like he was a good brother. Like he was a great son, a great cousin, great nephew. Those are things that we can remember and hold on to and share like you did today. God thinks about everything. And He allows us to enjoy life even in the hardest moments, even in the most difficult moments. You could come around and just laugh when no one would expect you to laugh. Smile when no one think you could smile. Because you remember Him. Because you remember that moment. That moment you shared with Him. And I think Daniel did a great job of sharing those moments. And I think every one of you that knew Omar very well had moments like that, where moments that just were unique to him and to you, moments where you cried. It doesn't sound like Omar cried many times, but moments that you laughed, and it does sound like Omar laughed a lot. Just moments you share. I want to encourage you to go back to that place often. Like I said earlier, it's not wrong to cry. It's okay to cry. You should. You need to unload that from your heart. Don't hold on to that. Daniel shared something very important also. You know, something that Omar reminds us about also is just the brevity of life. And praise the Lord that there were many memories made during his life. It reminds us that we're not promised tomorrow. And I just want to encourage you to think about that. In moments like this, I think reminds us about that. I want to encourage you to just get that right. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. And then he asked, believest thou this? You know, when you put your trust in Jesus, the Bible says that there's no need of sorrow, because now you have hope. Because now you go to a place where there is no night. It's just day. And everyone that enters heaven enters on the same day. When you put your trust in Jesus, people may say, look, he's asleep. The truth is, no. You'll be awake. And you open your eyes to a cloudless sky. You'll see the face of he that gave his life for you. People might say, he's not moving. The truth is, you'll be walking on the streets of gold. The Bible says, in the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. People might say he's silent. The truth is, the Bible says it will be seen in heaven. The sweet song that only could be sung in heaven. You won't be singing of a future place, but of a current place. Surrounded by those that will have gone before you. Friends, family, we have dear memories. And cherish them. They're treasures. They're gold. Go back to that place often. Let Omar remind you also of that there's an eternity. You know, Jesus. And I'm sure Omar wants you to make that decision also. You know, and I'm sure, like you said, you shared, he loves his family, and I'm sure he wants his family to know that. And identify with your family, your big family, a joyful family. And I want to encourage you, I don't know your family, but if there's anything, it doesn't sound like there is, but if there's anything that would be hindering a relationship with each other, I just want to encourage you to get that right. Get that straight. It's okay to ask for forgiveness. It's okay to forgive. That's what family does. And moments like this remind us how important family is at these moments too. Just let God's love be the one that brings you together. I'm going to share a word of prayer, and then I'm going to allow person from the funeral home to share the rest of the instructions. Let's have a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for time. Lord, your word says that you invented time. Time did not exist until you stepped into it and created it. And Lord, it's because of time that we can cherish it. It's because of time that we could measure it. It's because of time that we could remember it. And Lord, I pray that time would be taken advantage of to its full potential. Enjoying every moment, understanding, Lord, that this might be our last. But Lord, understanding, Lord, that you are the God of eternity. Eternity is a lot longer than time. I pray, Father, that we would draw closer to you as a result of a difficult time as this. That we would turn to you for strength, for encouragement, for hope, and for life. Lord, you have called for all to come unto you. I pray that we would call upon you. And like it was shared earlier, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And Lord, I pray that we would remember life. Father, love on this family. Lord, strengthen them. Love them like a father does a child. And Lord, we've heard plenty of stories today about a child, about a son. And Lord, pray that we would turn to you as a father. Lord, be that shepherd for them, lead them, guide them, direct them, and hug on them, Lord. Hug them close to you at this moment, Lord. Love on mom and on dad. Father, you know what it is to lose a son. So I pray that you would love on them like you know they need to be loved on. Pray for Aggie, pray for Robert in a special way. Lord, just speak to their hearts. Console them, comfort them. Lord, your arms are stronger than anyone we know. And your shoulders are bigger than anyone we know. So Lord, carry them. Let their heads rest on your shoulders. We ask you, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, family, we are going to be doing exactly this. So you have to come a little bit closer. Just be mindful of the live stream that we have going on. Pallbearers, if you could please come forward.
Good morning. On behalf of Mr. Rodriguez, I bring this way. Our dogs are homing. When you let them free, the dogs are gonna fly back to the home where they belong. At the same way, Omar, you're back to the Lord in heaven. But now, his mom is gonna realize the first that represents Omar's souls flying back to heaven.